Hi, everyone. So glad you could join us for another episode of Adweek's Most Powerful Woman in Sports. I'm Lisa Granatstein, and it's here where the world's greatest marketers, media pros, athletes, and coaches share their remarkable career journeys and how they achieve peak performance. Today, we'll be speaking with Global Head of League of Legends, Naz Aletaha. We'll talk to Naz about her journey from entertainment to esports and the lessons learned along the way. Naz's career began in finance at Sony Pictures, though she soon after pivoted to Activision Blizzard, where she spent 4 years in marketing. Naz joined Riot Games in 2011, just 5 years after its launch. And last fall, Naz was promoted to Global Head of League of Legends Esports after heading up esports partnerships and business development. Lots to dig in here, so let's dive in. Naz, welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, Lisa.
Hello. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. So let's start from the beginning. Tell us a little bit about your background. Where'd you grow up and how did you get into gaming, and were you into sports as a kid? Share a little bit.
Yeah, so I grew up in Southern California, born and raised, and have lived here ever since. It's hard to beat the weather, so I've just stayed put.
Snowing here.
Grew up, yes, sports were a big part of my life growing up. So were video games. Interestingly enough, I never think I would have dreamt that the two of those would have merged in my adult life to form my career. But you know, I got into sports at a very early age because my dad is so into sports, and the story that my mother always likes to tell is, you know, I'm the older of two daughters, and my dad at the time, you know, I think once my sister came along, you know, he was a little upset that he didn't have a boy, and he would tell my mom, you know, I always wanted a son so that I could play sports with him. And, you know, her answer back to him was, well, why can't you do that with your daughters? And so I give credit to my dad, because even in the 80s was, you know, he opened his mind at the time, and he did. And so in a way I became the son he never had. But all sorts of sports, I'd say, growing up, from tennis and basketball and volleyball and, you know, running and skiing were big parts of my life.
And what was your favorite video game growing up?
Oh, Mario Brothers. I was an avid Mario Brothers player growing up. I have very, very vivid memories of, I mean, it must have been the late 80s, and I was so little, but my older cousins bought the NES, like the original Nintendo system. And I remember them bringing it home, and it was magic, you know, seeing this game kind of come to life on the screen. And I always had to wait my turn because I was the youngest one. So I had to wait patiently. But I learned a lot about how to play by just watching at the time.
And so you went into finance, I believe, and you got a job at Sony Entertainment, which is very cool. But that wasn't your future. What happened there, and how did you get into Activision Blizzard?
Yeah,
or Activision at the time.
Yes, sorry. I studied business with a concentration in corporate finance when I was in college, and I chose that concentration, to be honest, not because I was particularly passionate about it, but because I was good at it. And, you know, I thought that was the smart choice. I thought I was, you know, thinking ahead to job security and making sure I was going to, you know, get on a solid career path once I graduated. And I did, you know, that panned out for me. I got a job at Sony Entertainment in the motion picture group doing corporate finance. But what I realized about a year and a half in was, you know, what I think I already knew even in college, which was, I'm good at this, but I don't like it. And, you know, I didn't want to continue down on that path because, you know, at least my calculus at the time was the further down this path I go, the more pigeonholed I'll be, and it will be harder for me to transition. I don't know if that would have been the case, who knows now, but that was when I really started to look around and say, like, how do I parlay this knowledge and short amount of experience, but some experience that I have in finance into a different career trajectory. And at the time, someone told me, like, oh, you should check out this company, Activision. And funny enough, even though I grew up playing video games, I didn't know that was a career path that was even available to me. I think I had, very narrowly viewed video games as, like, you must be a video game designer, right? Or an engineer to pursue a career there. And I was proven very wrong, and I'm very happy I was.
Do you remember what it was like your first day going from, it was entertainment to, like, a, video game place? Like, that's very cool.
It was very cool. I immediately fell in love with the industry because it sits right in this cross section of, at the time, technology and entertainment, and so that's really exciting. And where it's evolved to today is that cross section has grown, right, where it's entertainment and technology and sports, all coming together to produce entertainment essentially for these audiences. So it's been great.
Yeah, you've really watched gaming explode. And can you give us a sense of the scope and scale of esports now as you see it? And then we'll drill down into League of Legends. But just generally, how big is this space now? It's
massive. So esports, and maybe I'll take a step back from just even esports, but video games as entertainment, watching people stream video games, whether that's an esports competition or an individual, right, who may stream and he or she entertains their audiences. It has grown to be really the majority share of the entertainment hours that our audience and our demographic have. They devote that to watching and or playing games. So they spend more time watching or playing games than they do watching movies, watching television, listening to music, even going on social media. And so it's now huge and taking up kind of a majority of I won't say mind share, but entertainment hours of the younger generations. I think that streaming, there's like over 1 billion people are watching streaming of video games. So it's huge. And then, if you kind of double click into that with League of Legends, our game is League of Legends here at Riot Games. And League as a game has grown to be one of the most played games in the world. But it's now a massive spectator sport where, we have hundreds of millions of people around the world who are fans of the sport and who follow the sport and who tune in. And so, and honestly, like, I don't even think we're even near our ceiling. I think the sky's the limit still.
Is it bigger in Asia, or is it pretty comparable here in the US?
Asia is huge. It is really big. I always look at Asia, specifically South Korea and China. It's almost like they're 3 or 4 years ahead of the rest of the world when it comes to video games, the place video games hold in culture, and esports as well. And so, in China, League of Legends esports is the 3rd most popular sport in the country. Wow. That's crazy. When you look at North America, here in the US, League is the 3rd most popular sport in the 18 to 30 demographic. So within that demographic, we're right there behind the NFL and the NBA. And I think, my hope is that in a couple years we'll be similar to China here, where it's the 3rd most popular sport, period.
Wow. Now, the demo obviously is mostly young guys. How what kind of efforts are underway to try and bring in more women?
Yeah, our demographic for League of Legends esports fans is about 70-30. So 70% male, 30% female. We've seen that over the years. So one increase the female concentration of that. It once upon a time was 90-10. So I don't think our work is
Getting
done.
there.
Yes,
Yeah.
but I'm happy to see at least improvements over the years. It's really important to us to lower the barriers to entry for women. We've done a lot of amazing work with a different game called Valorant, where we've essentially launched a program called Game Changers. And the purpose of the program is really to give training and to give opportunities to actually compete in very competitive events for women or for people of marginalized genders, and we're seeing such great results. The point of it is not so that we can go form a female only league. We actually believe that the beauty of esports is that the physical constraints of the traditional sports world are removed. And so, we envision a day where you're going to see mixed gender teams play at the professional level. But in order to get there, we need to give women the opportunity to compete and kind of hone their skills at that the highest tier of competitive levels. So we're at that stage right now.
Okay. So you were recently promoted. Tell us a little bit about what the global head of League of Legends does. Like, tell me about a day in the life.
Yes. I think the best comparison would be like a commissioner. I don't call myself a commissioner, but responsible for the overall sport. So everything from competitive operations and rulings and policies to marketing and the commercialization and business side, to of course PR, to our relationships with the pro team organizations. Our ecosystem is vast. We have 12 regional leagues all over the world. Each of those leagues has on average 10 to 12 professional teams that play in it. So overall 12 leagues, 5 continents, about 120 pro teams, and almost 1,000 professional players competing. And so my job is to make sure that we're doing right by those players and right by our audience, and giving our fans just the best sport and the sport that they deserve.
And where do you see, obviously esports is on the cutting edge of technology. It's leading the way. Where do you see Web3 Metaverse fitting in? I realize League of Legends is its own thing, but is there a future with the Metaverse?
I'd say probably, maybe. I think.
Who knows, really, right?
Who knows? Yeah, it's super interesting. We live in this very digital first world, and in the esports world. Our sport is digital. There's kind of two worlds is how we almost look at it. There's the physical, where we have our pro players and the talent that they bring, and we have these large arenas that we sell out, and right. So the physical aspect of what you get in traditional sports is very present. But then you have what's happening in the world of the game, and the characters that they're playing, and the backstory of those characters. And we've done some interesting things with partners like Louis Vuitton, who have come in and designed looks for some of those in-game characters. And so I always compare it to, I liken it, I say, to if you were able to take the NBA as a sports league and combine it with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, that's what we have. Essentially, we have this very rich in-game IP, and then we have the talent and competitiveness, right, and star power of our pro players, and we combine that to produce sports.
And you were talking about Louis Vuitton. What about I gather brands are jumping on right now? I mean, what has that been like? And was there a period where you actually had to convince them, like really convince them?
Yeah, yes, very much so. That's an area that's near and dear to my heart because I used to head up our partnerships team and started that team. And once upon a time in our early days as a sport, I was a team of one, and I was out there pitching partners and just trying to educate the market. And people would look at us like, I don't understand what this is. Is this digital basketball? Is it digital? And it was a lot of explaining and putting the numbers in front of them. Like, look, our viewership is massive, and the audience, not only is it big, they're just so engaged. But it certainly took a lot of convincing, especially in the early days. And it's been honestly really rewarding to see that dynamic shift over the last couple of years, where I think esports has now grown so big that if you're a marketer and you're looking to be part of the zeitgeist, you have to consider esports. And it's really not a matter of if, it's a matter of how should you get involved, and who do you get involved with, and what's that entry point, and how do we make that come to life in a way that's really resonant with this audience.
Yeah. And I would imagine, obviously, data and understanding tech is really important. Are there other critical skills that you need to be a marketer in esports?
You have to have a very keen understanding of this audience. And when we do partnerships, and we have amazing partners, MasterCard, Mercedes, Bose, State Farm, like these incredible brands who have long histories in marketing and sponsorship and working with sports properties. I give our partners a lot of credit because they come to us with such an open mind, and they're open to really listening to what we're advising them to do. Because just because something works when you're marketing to the NFL crowd or an NBA crowd doesn't mean it'll necessarily translate to this audience. So our approach is very much providing value. And I don't mean like free stuff, but I think our audience really embraces marketing, whether that's marketing from us or marketing from our partners, when they can understand how it's making their experience as a fan better. And so that's the North Star that we're always chasing, which is like, how do we make it better to be a fan of the sport? And if we can check that box, we know we've done our job right as marketers and partnership managers.
Right. And the outward facing, and in terms of promoting the game and being inclusionary is so important. How do you do that internally? How do you create the culture of inclusion at League of Legends?
I think diversity of perspective is so essential. The way we see it, we're a global sport. Like I already talked about, our audience spans every corner of the world, every culture in the world. And so, we really want to make sure that when we're thinking about the decisions that we're making, again, that we have that diversity present so that we can be the best that we can be, for our audience. So I think that's everything from hiring. It's everything from, we have offices all around the world. So we lean really heavily on our local teams because they know those audiences the best. And, there's nuance there. There's nuance between territories. There's not really a homogenous approach when you're thinking or, providing a service, a sport, an entertainment product to a global audience. So we really do try to stay connected in a variety of ways.
Do you think esports is becoming much more diversified than traditional sports?
I think it will become more diversified, especially when you think about the competitors themselves. Again, in League of Legends today, everyone at the pro tier is male, but my hope and aspiration, again, is that because the physicality is not going to be a constraint, shouldn't be a constraint, is that we'll see that shift over the years. But when you even look at really the operational side of the sport. You know, we're seeing women elevated to positions of CEOs and presidents of team organizations, of leagues, of, you know, huge, you know, very important functions across the sport. And it's hard for me to make that comparison to traditional sports. Right. You know, women are making amazing inroads across the board, but it's been really, really encouraging to just see the overall diversity across esports, especially over the last couple of years.
Yeah, and absolutely, we'll be seeing women take center stage, many different sports, including esports. We're just out of time, but before we head off, I'd love to have you share your takeaways.
Oh, sure. These are three of my favorite takeaways that I always advise, you know, people on my team or people I mentor. The first one is that a career path is rarely straight. What I've learned in my own career path is that there are these twists and turns that are going to come at you, and it's really about embracing them. Because, you know, I think if you had asked me, you know, 15 plus years ago when I was a financial analyst, that one day, you know, if you had told that woman that one day she'd be running a global esport, I would have told you were crazy. And so it's these leaps, and I think we as women can sometimes, and I know I'm generalizing, I think we can sometimes let our own self-doubt prevent us from taking those leaps and trying something new, because maybe we think we don't have the right skill set, or you know, there's someone better. And I think the answer is go, jump. You can do it, and you will learn, and you know, you will pick it up. Yeah. The second one is know what you don't know. I think self-awareness is so essential. This is advice that was given to me so long ago, and I've always kept it in the back of my head. But knowing what you don't know, and in turn knowing what you do know. So knowing when to exert your expertise, and then also knowing where your gaps are, so that you can go fill those gaps, and you fill them, right? Whether that's by going and educating yourself, or surrounding yourself with people with that expertise. But I think that's essential. And then the third is chase passion. You know, again, like we talked about, I learned that early in my career, which was, you know, don't chase the money, don't chase the recognition. The money will probably come, but it's that passion that gets you through those inevitable, you know, challenges that any career is going to throw at you. The late nights, the stress, whatever that is, those mountains are going to be there for you to climb. And I think if you're not passionate about what you're doing, you may not feel like the climb is even worth it. So, yeah.
Those are amazing, and 100% agree. Fantastic. I'm going to be taking notes on those later. Anyway, listen, thank you so much for joining us. I hope we can have you back at one of our events. We do a lot of sports events, and this has been terrific. Really a pleasure having you. Thank you.
It's so good to talk to you, Lisa. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Take care. So, and thank you all for joining us. We'll see you back here on March 23rd with Cleveland Cavs Chief Commercial Officer, Shelly Kayette. Have a great day.